So imagine you're checking your retirement portfolio, right? You've had this stellar, just a decade-long run of growth. And then you realize that simply because your assets doubled in value, your administrative costs just doubled too.
Oh, yeah, it's a brutal realization.
Right. For a standard equity mutual fund, maybe you just accept that, as the cost of doing business. But if that account holds physical gold, which is an asset that doesn't generate a yield, it doesn't pay dividends, you're essentially letting this financial parasite eat the very foundation you laid for your future.
It is a brutal mathematical reality, for sure. Because when you step outside that traditional system of, digital tickers and index funds, and you move into the realm of physical precious metals,
Things change.
they fundamentally change. The underlying mechanics of how your wealth is stored, how it's taxed, managed, all of it is completely different.
And navigating that change without getting fleeced is our core mission for this deep dive. We are charting a course through the highly specific, deeply regulated world of gold IRAs.
Which is a minefield if you don't know what you're doing.
Exactly. So to do that, we're leaning on a really comprehensive market analysis today. It's titled, How to Compare Gold IRA Companies' Fees, Storage, and Reputation. And the author of this research is Doug Young.
Yeah, and we really need to highlight his background here, because in a market this opaque, the lens through which you analyze the data is, well, it's everything.
Totally.
His perspective is just highly technical. It's operational. We aren't looking at some slick marketing brochure here. Doug Young is a financial markets researcher with over 20 years of industry experience.
Wow, 20 years.
Yeah, and crucially, 15 of those years have been entirely dedicated to gold IRAs specifically.
And he also spent 16 years operating as a financial director, right? Plus, he's conducted over 80 individual gold IRA company evaluations since, I think, 2011.
Since 2011, yeah. So he has literally audited the mechanics of dozens of these operations.
Yeah.
He knows how the supply chains work.
Like actual nitty-gritty.
Exactly. The vaulting logistics, how the fee structures are just buried in the fine print.
Which is exactly the level of scrutiny we need today. He's evaluating counterparty risk, vaulting security, liquidity protocols, basically the actual infrastructure that protects your capital.
Right.
Now, before we really get going, I do have to clearly state that this deep dive is strictly for educational purposes. We're looking at market mechanics today, so we are not providing personalized financial advice.
Definitely not.
You should absolutely consult a qualified advisor before you go reallocating any of your retirement funds. Oh, and also, in the spirit of total transparency, the source material discloses that the site owners may receive compensation for endorsing certain companies.
Yep, just your standard affiliate disclosure, but, keep it in mind as we analyze this space.
Always good to know. Okay, let's unpack this.
Well, the foundational layer of evaluating any firm in this sector, before we even touch on vaulting or premiums, is verifying their operational track record.
Right, who you're actually dealing with.
Exactly. Because you are dealing with an unregulated asset class,
Yeah.
the physical metal itself, but it's wrapped inside a highly regulated tax vehicle, the IRA.
That's a weird combination.
It really is. And that combination requires just an immense amount of trust in the counterparty facilitating the transaction.
Because it's definitely not about who has the slickest late-night commercial, right? Choosing a gold IRA company based solely on a flashy television ad is it's like hiring a general contractor to build your house just because they bought a cool billboard on the highway.
That's a great way to put it.
You wouldn't just hand over $100,000 without verifying if, the last 3 houses they built suffered massive structural failures.
I'd take that analogy a step further, actually. It's not just about checking if the house collapsed. It's about seeing how that contractor handled it when, say, the shipment of lumber was delayed or the foundation settled weirdly.
Oh, how they handle things going wrong.
Exactly. You have to investigate how these companies handle friction. And the source dictates a very specific methodology for verifying this. You completely bypass the company's own marketing materials and go straight to 3 independent consumer watchdogs.
And the big 3 being the Better Business Bureau, the Business Consumer Alliance, and TrustLink. But when we look at these platforms, what are we actually analyzing? Because I feel like anyone can have an A+ rating if they just pay their membership dues.
Yeah, that is the critical distinction right there. You aren't just glancing at the letter grade. You are diving into the actual complaint logs.
Reading the fine print of the complaints.
You have to. You want to see the volume of complaints relative to their time in business, and more importantly, the velocity and nature of their resolutions.
Right.
Like if a customer had an issue with a rollover delay or, a specific coin premium, did the company respond with some boilerplate legal defense? Or did a senior representative actively mediate and actually solve the problem?
So you're looking for a consensus of operational competence.
Exactly, across multiple independent platforms over a span of years, not just months.
That makes total sense. It's about stress testing their customer service infrastructure before you actually need to use it.
Yes. But what's fascinating here is how the source ties a company's underlying ethics directly to their educational approach.
Oh, how so?
Well, the truly reputable firms in this space, they operate on a philosophy of empowerment rather than just extraction. They don't just, push you toward a transaction.
They actually teach you something.
Right. They provide robust, unbiased resources to help you understand the macroeconomic drivers of gold, the intricacies of IRS compliance, and most importantly, how to spot the industry's own red flags.
Because an educated investor is actually a better long-term client. I mean, if a firm is operating ethically with fair margins, they want you to understand exactly how the machine works.
They absolutely do.
They assign dedicated representatives who assess your broader retirement timeline, right? Rather than just trying to hit some monthly sales quota.
Exactly. It indicates they're building a long-term partnership with you. Responsible metal sourcing, transparent premium pricing, and a distinct lack of high-pressure sales tactics.
No one yelling at you to buy now.
Right. Those are the hallmarks of a firm that expects you to stick around for 20 years.
Which brings us to the operational reality of how these firms actually make their money and where a lot of investors unknowingly bleed capital. Because if a company's track record is the foundation, the fee structure is the plumbing.
Oh, for sure.
And the dense regulatory paperwork required for IRS compliance creates just the perfect environment for unethical companies to hide fees that will quietly drain your account.
It is the most persistent threat to the longevity of your portfolio, hands down.
Okay, let me push back on the source's stance here for a second, though, because the analysis comes down incredibly hard on scaled fees, where you pay a percentage based on the total value of your account.
Yes, it does.
But, if I have a standard brokerage account holding an S&P index fund, paying a 0.1 or 0.2%, assets under management fee is totally standard. The fund managers are actively rebalancing, dealing with corporate actions. Why should I be outraged if a Gold IRA provider charges a scaling percentage for their services?
I see why you'd make that comparison for sure. We are all deeply conditioned to accept that AUM model in traditional equities. But you really have to look at the fundamental mechanics of the underlying asset here.
Okay, lay it on me.
A mutual fund or an equity portfolio generates yield. It pays dividends, it compounds. The managers are actively trading to generate alpha.
Right.
Physical gold does absolutely none of that. It is a static, tangible asset sitting on a shelf in a vault somewhere. It does not generate cash flow to offset those administrative costs.
So if the spot price of gold doubles over a decade, my account value doubles, but the actual amount of labor required to guard that specific piece of metal hasn't changed at all.
Precisely the point. If you start with $50,000 in a gold IRA and it grows to $100,000, a scaled fee dictates that your costs literally double simply because the market price appreciated.
Wow.
And because gold yields no dividends, the only way to pay that escalating fee is to either continually inject fresh cash into the account from your own pocket.
Which nobody wants to do.
Exactly. Or worse, the custodian has to liquidate fractions of your physical holdings to cover their administrative overhead.
You are actively cannibalizing your own principal just for the privilege of storing it.
Which is why the research is absolute on this point. Flat fees are non-negotiable. You need a structure where, whether your account holds $50,000 or $500,000 in physical metal, your administrative and vaulting costs remain a fixed, predictable line item.
That makes total sense. That is how you protect your capital appreciation over a 20-year horizon. Here's where it gets really interesting, though, because dodging the scaled fee is only half the battle. The source highlights that you have to aggressively audit the contract for hidden setup and transactional costs.
Oh yes, the ancillary fees. They will get you.
Right. A company might boldly advertise a low flat fee for storage to get you in the door, but when you look at the actual invoice, they're hitting you with wire transfer fees, account establishment fees, exorbitant markups on the bid-ask spread when you actually purchase the metal.
And separate line items for the annual custodial reporting too.
Yeah. If you aren't doing the math on the total cost of ownership, those nickel and dime charges will effectively act like a scaled fee anyway.
And those opaque fee structures rarely exist in a vacuum, right?
Hmm.
They're usually accompanied by other operational red flags.
Like what?
Well, the source outlines several distinct warning signs. If you encounter representatives using artificial scarcity, like telling you that you need to lock in a price today because a specific coin is running out,
Oh, I hate that.
yeah, that is a high-pressure tactic you should immediately walk away from.
What about marketing that leans heavily on projected returns? Because I see a lot of doom and gloom advertising promising that gold is guaranteed to skyrocket while the dollar collapses.
Yeah, run away from that. Any firm guaranteeing returns or projecting specific price floors is violating basic financial compliance.
Really?
Yes. Gold is a commodity. It fluctuates based on real interest rates, geopolitical tension, central bank buying. Anyone promising a guarantee is deliberately misleading you about the nature of market risk.
Makes sense.
You also have to be incredibly skeptical of celebrity endorsements or arbitrary, Company of the Year awards plastered on websites. The onus is on you to verify the actual corporate entity behind the marketing veneer.
Okay, so assuming you do the diligence, you vet the watchdogs, you secure a transparent flat fee structure, you avoid the high-pressure sales traps. Now we transition from the conceptual to the physical.
That part.
Yeah, you're taking possession of tangible precious metal within a tax-advantaged account, which triggers a complete labyrinth of IRS compliance rules. And I'll admit, my initial thought when learning about gold IRAs was the fantasy of treating it like a dragon's hoard.
A dragon's hoard.
Yeah, the idea that I execute the rollover, buy the gold bars, take delivery of a heavy wooden chest at my front door, and either bury it in the backyard or hide it in a massive safe in my basement. True off-the-grid asset protection.
It's a really common psychological draw for physical metal investors, honestly.
Mm-hmm.
But the research shuts down that home storage fantasy immediately.
It does.
Yeah, the IRS operates on a legal doctrine called constructive receipt. The moment you take personal, physical possession of the precious metals inside your IRA, the IRS considers that a full distribution of the account.
Meaning I just blew up the tax advantage status of my retirement.
Entirely. If you are under the standard retirement age, you will be hit with immediate income taxes on the entire value of the metal, plus a severe early withdrawal penalty on top of that. You effectively defeat the entire mathematical purpose of using an IRA vehicle in the first place.
So the dragon's hoard is out. You cannot be your own vault.
No, you absolutely cannot. And this intense regulatory friction is exactly why selecting the right corporate partner is so vital. A competent gold IRA firm acts as your logistical quarterback here.
So what do they actually do?
First, they facilitate the creation of a self-directed IRA, which is a specific trust vehicle required to hold alternative assets. Then, they manage the direct custodian-to-custodian transfer of your funds.
Which avoids you ever taking personal receipt of the cash, thereby avoiding a taxable event during the rollover.
Correct. Furthermore, they act as the compliance filter for the assets themselves.
Yeah.
The IRS has incredibly strict purity requirements for metals held in an IRA.
Like how strict?
Well, for instance, gold must have a minimum fineness of 0.995 to be eligible.
Oh, wow.
If you accidentally purchase a historical numismatic coin or a collectible that doesn't meet that purity threshold, the IRS will reject it. A reputable firm ensures that every ounce you purchase is investment grade and fully compliant.
Okay, and once the compliant metal is purchased, it has to be shipped to an IRS-approved depository. Because the custodian, the financial entity that technically administers the IRA, contracts with a third-party, high-security vaulting facility. But all vaulting isn't identical, is it? The source draws a major operational distinction regarding how your metal is actually placed on the shelf.
Yes, this is the critical difference between commingled and segregated storage, and is a massive point of due diligence for you as the investor.
Break that down for us.
In a commingled storage environment, your assets are aggregated with the holdings of other investors. So you might buy 50 American Gold Eagle coins, but the depository just adds them to a master pallet of Gold Eagles.
So they just toss them in a pile.
Essentially, yeah.
Yeah.
You own a generic claim on 50 coins of that specific type and grade.
Which sounds efficient for the vault, sure, but it completely removes the appeal of owning a specific physical asset. If I buy a particular bar with a specific serial number, I want that exact bar back, not some generic equivalent.
Which is why the source advocates heavily for segregated storage. In a segregated setup, your specific metals are cataloged, They're placed in their own distinct container or locker, and they're physically separated from every other investor's assets.
That sounds much better.
It provides an additional layer of psychological security, and frankly, it eliminates certain complexities involving counterparty risk if the depository were to ever face a catastrophic audit or liquidation.
Beyond just the shelving logistics, you have to verify the overarching security infrastructure, right? I mean, we were talking about facilities holding billions of dollars in physical wealth.
You need to understand the physical and digital security layers, definitely. But most importantly, you need to verify the insurance policy.
Oh, of course.
You must confirm that the depository carries comprehensive all-risk insurance that covers the full replacement value of your assets in the event of theft, internal fraud, or some natural disaster. Your capital is only as secure as the underwriter guaranteeing the vault.
It really is a logistical marathon compared to just logging into a brokerage app and buying a digital ETF. But I suppose that is the price of admission for tangible wealth preservation.
It is a heavy lift up front, no question. But if we connect this to the bigger picture, you go through the hassle of vetting the watchdogs, you fight for the flat fees, you navigate the IRS purity standards, and you lock your assets in a segregated, fully insured vault.
Right.
Why? What is the actual end game of this entire complex structure?
The end game is that eventually I'm going to be 75 years old and I'm going to need to pay for my property taxes, medical bills, and groceries. I can't exactly log into my account and digitally transmit a microscopic flake of gold to the utility company.
Which highlights the ultimate operational hurdle here, liquidity. Physical gold is highly illiquid compared to cash or equities. If you reach retirement age and need to take your required minimum distributions, or you simply want to cash out, you need an institutional exit strategy.
Because the alternative is a nightmare. I mean, if you take an in-kind distribution, meaning the vault actually ships the heavy metal to your house, you now have to find a buyer yourself.
Yes, you do.
You're hauling gold bars to a local coin dealer or a pawn shop, and you're going to get absolutely crushed on the bid-ask spread. They are going to offer you wholesale prices, which could wipe out years of your portfolio's gains.
It is a profoundly stressful and inefficient way to liquidate. And this is why the source emphasizes that before you ever sign the initial account paperwork, you must verify the company's buyback program.
They need a plan to buy it back.
A premier Gold IRA provider will have a formalized, documented policy stating their commitment to repurchase your metals at prevailing fair market value when you are ready to liquidate.
So they act as your built-in guaranteed market maker.
Exactly. It streamlines the entire exit process. The custodian handles the ledger updates, the depository transfers the metal internally to the dealer, and the cash is wired directly to your liquid accounts. You bypass that retail spread entirely.
That's huge.
A robust buyback program isn't just a convenience, it is a fundamental pillar of protecting the actual purchasing power of your retirement.
So what does this all mean? If we are distilling Doug Young's extensive market analysis into a tactical blueprint for you, the investor, it really rests on 4 non-negotiable pillars.
Let's hear them.
First, verify the corporate reputation yourself by diving into the complaint resolutions on the BBB, BCA, and TrustLink. Just ignore the marketing noise completely. Second, fiercely defend your principal over the long term by demanding a flat fee structure and auditing the contract for hidden setup or wire costs.
Critical.
Third, navigate the IRS labyrinth by utilizing a trusted custodian to ensure asset purity and insisting on fully insured segregated vaulting. And finally, secure your liquidity by confirming a formalized buyback program is in place before you deploy a single dollar.
It is a rigorous checklist, but a necessary one for this asset class. And honestly, analyzing all this operational data leaves me with a final, somewhat provocative thought for you to consider.
I love a provocative thought. What is it?
Well, the source material is heavily focused on establishing a stable, trustworthy corporate partner and securing a robust physical facility for the long haul. But given how rapidly the global macroeconomic environment and our digital financial systems are evolving, it raises a profound question.
Okay.
How will the physical logistics, the cross-border insurance mechanisms, and the actual brick-and-mortar security protocols of these IRS-approved depositories be stress-tested over a 20 or 30-year retirement timeline?
Whoa, yeah.
If the broader financial system shifts entirely toward digital settlement, the premium on hypersecure physical vaulting infrastructure might become the most critical and perhaps the most strained component of this entire strategy.
It is a fascinating dynamic to consider. I mean, we spend our days obsessing over cybersecurity and blockchain ledgers, but ensuring the multi-decade physical protection of heavy metal introduces a completely different matrix of geopolitical and logistical risks.
It really does.
To help you dig deeper into the mechanics of those risks and everything else we've covered today, we strongly recommend that listeners go to the Gold IRA Company's bulletin website at goldiracompaniescompared.com for a wealth of related information.
Highly recommend it.
Again, that URL is goldiracompaniescompared.com. And of course, there is a link to this information right there in the deep dive notes.
Taking the time to read the full analysis will give you a significant operational advantage.
Because ultimately, you aren't just adjusting a spreadsheet anymore, you are taking physical custody of your financial future. And to navigate that terrain safely, you must ensure the map you are using is flawless.